Not Perfect community. This is Chantra Powell. Welcome to 2022. Happy New Year. And if you have been following me since December and you've been moving into 2022 with intention, man, high five, kudos, cheers, all the things to you, for real. I bet you feel like you started this year with a leg up, because it wasn't one of those years where you start figuring out what you're about to do. You already were in full swing and motion of what you are actually doing. So the foundation was laid, and now we just keep going. I'm so excited to continue to journey with you through this year. Today, with this first episode of the new year, today I'm going to introduce you to a new friend of mine who is power-packed, y'all. Her name is Dr. Riva Robinson. She is an author. She is a medical doctor, trained medical doctor, medical school, like all that hard stuff. Yeah, she did all that. Even when she wasn't sure that she really wanted to pursue that career, she did it anyway. Which I understand that that's hard enough to do if you know you want to do it. But if your head is like sort of tripping a little bit, I can't even imagine making myself go through all of that. But she did. And I'm so glad that she did, because she will tell her story. What she learned in the process of doing so has evolved her into a space that not only helps herself, but blesses us, as she's combined her love of medicine with her love of life, and is really building a practice, has built a practice in functional medicine. She also, believe it or not, is an award-winning bodybuilder. I mean, seriously, I can just keep going, so I'm gonna stop. The book she wrote is More Than Enough. It is a #1 best-selling book, The Healing Journey to Love Yourself, Listen to Your Gut, and Live Your Truth. Enjoy this conversation between me and my friend, Dr. Riva Robinson.
Hey! Hey! Oh, what a blessing.
Dr. Riva, oh my gosh. So first of all, this opportunity to sit with you, I have been so excited about for the last couple weeks since we met at the gym. Really? Crazy.
That's where I meet all my best people, all the best people in my world. So it's quite fitting.
Well, I bet so, because you literally have this demeanor about yourself that is so magnetic. I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you that, but it literally reaches out to people. And I would imagine it's shutting people down at the same time. Like, I would imagine that you're getting, right? You're getting the good, and probably those that aren't the good or don't dare step near, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've lost gym memberships because people were threatened by me and just my presence and how I show up and serve. It's like, if not to mention any names, but yeah, like, I show up and I bring my best, and the gym is like my home. And so if somebody wants guidance, if they see me as a leader and a representative of what they're working towards, I'm going to help you. If your staff trainer isn't doing it, I'm sorry. Like, don't hate me for helping and sharing my life. So you know what? Like, I consider it a blessing whenever I see those threats and those things come up, because I know that there's 10 times more people that I'm reaching that I'm not even aware of. So take the good and the bad.
So that is a perfect place to start, because I'm sure that the folks that are, watching us right now, I'm going to call them my tribe, right?
Yes.
Folks that are on this relentless quest to be excellent in everything that they do, but completely humbled and realize that quest for perfection just does not exist, right? And it's a journey to get to that place, right? But when you do, it's real. So Dr. Riva, can you just tell us a little bit about who are you? Who's Dr. Riva?
That is an excellent question. So the latest iteration that I've come to is that I am the artist formerly known as Dr. Riva. Like, I've given myself permission to just be me. Like, the work that I do, even as a physician, comes much more from a place of artistic expression of one's body and helping people find that connection within themselves that leads the healing. As growing up as the child of two physician parents, it's a very straight and narrow path with, there is an art to medicine, but it's still a very left brain, very masculine, very right versus wrong way of doing things. And my brain never really worked in that way, although I did have the natural talents and abilities and the smarts to be able to achieve as far as I did. So, I realized when I was about 15 or 16 years old in high school, going through the prerequisite health technology classes and doing the training as a medical assistant, I was like, oh, I don't really like this. This is a little messed up. Like, is anybody else seeing something wrong here? This kind of makes me feel crazy. But I didn't realize that there were other paths like functional medicine available to me. So I stayed on that straight and narrow. I was blessed to be able to get into a medical scholars program where I was accepted to Rice University in Houston and Baylor College of Medicine right across the street, and one of the top medical schools in the country. So that was handed to me on a silver platter. Well, a lot of hard work backing it, but I literally prayed. I was like, God, if I'm meant to do this, I'll get in. If not, then I won't get it. And then I got it. I was like, crap. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I have to be a doctor now.
That happens. That's real.
Right.
You don't want to know.
Right. I know. So I was like, okay, so I'm doing this thing. And every step of the way just felt like I was going through the motions, even in college and taking all of the science classes. Like, those weren't the classes that were lighting me up. Like, what finally lit me up and made me feel connected to who I am at my core was when I started on my kinesiology path. And kinesiology is a study of human movement. And we are made to move as human beings. And it's ironic because here we are, so many of us more sedentary than ever, especially as doctors. Like, we're behind a desk, we're sitting all day long. And so whenever I finally discovered kinesiology and started understanding nutrition and applying all of that to myself, I was like, wow, like, it was like somebody had like turned the lights on, and I had been in the darkness my whole life, and I saw that there was a whole world around me that I had just been reaching for and grasping and just vaguely getting a sense of it. And so there was a fateful day where I came home to talk to my parents, to tell them I was going to drop out of the Rice Baylor program. I didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a kinesiologist, and whatever that would mean. And I didn't know exactly what path that would be, but in so many words, they're like, you're crazy. You're not giving up a seat in med school. And mind you, they sat on the admissions committee for the med school at Texas A&M University. So they saw how much people struggled to get in. And here I was, I'd get admitted to med school at 17 years old, have a seat reserved, didn't have to take the MCAT, just needed to maintain like a 3.0 GPA at Rice, and I would be a doctor one day. And so it was that first moment I was confronted with, well, who am I? Like, am I really defined by what career path I go on? Like, am I less me if I'm not a doctor? Like, what would it mean to lean into the thing that truly lights me up? But, being like 19, 20 years old, I didn't quite have the wherewithal within me and the insight and the wisdom to be able to go through that thought process, because it was mom and dad know best. They've walked the path ahead. And so I'm going to trust them instead of trusting my gut, which, it's
There's
interesting.
all kind of lessons there.
Oh, yes. And so, but I'm so grateful that at the end of the day that I followed through, because I wouldn't know my husband, Sean, had I not gone to med school, was one of my best friends introduced us from med school. So, there's so many gems whenever we stay on that path
And
that we,
even the relevance, right? I mean, even as you would lean into kinesiology and you would lean into the functional aspects of medicine, if you hadn't have started on that path that you maybe begrudgingly did, you wouldn't have been so set apart now in the
right.
service and the offer that you have. I think that's the mind-blowing piece of it.
Mhm.
I know for me, and I know certainly for many others, a lot of times we can start off with a vision, and maybe even somewhat of a passion of the direction that we're going to head. But it's knowing when to be responsive to the urge to shift, and when it's also, important to be open to things that you may not even understand you're feeling, right? Tell me a little bit
Exactly.
about that as it relates to your story, because I do hear a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the key thing that I'm still learning is whenever I'm consistently hitting up against a wall, why don't we stop running? Why don't we slow down
Ah,
and look at the wall, study the wall, understand what this wall is, instead of just like, okay, I'm going to use more brute force and just keep banging and banging and banging. Because even up until now, like right now, like I'm in a period of rest and stillness and reevaluating because I've hit a lot of walls in the past year, 2 years. And so it's been such a gift to be able to offer myself the space to slow down and reevaluate and get to know me in a
mm,
different way, in a different light, and the divine wisdom that God has appointed me on this path and all the different roles that I've been able to assume. And as I was reading your book, which is mind blowing, like can't wait to read it over again and do more. It was just incredible. Like what blew
thank
me away
you.
was, you're so welcome. What blew me away was just that, like, how parallel our journeys have been as far as just like doing all the things, it's like we're total badasses. Whatever we put our mind to, we're going to slay. But then that can also be a weakness. And that is like, okay, I know I can do all these things, so I'm going to do all the things. But we weren't made to do all the things. We were meant to be. And
Yeah.
so I'm learning how to be again. And that's really hard.
Yes. Oh my God. It is, I think one of the hardest acts of my life has been sitting still, because I have this insatiable desire that if there is space and there's idea, it must mean now, it must mean fill it, it must mean there's movement. And I don't know about you, but I feel that 2020 in a lot of ways was hard, really, really hard. We still continue to feel the heart of it. But I think there was grace in it as well, in that there was intentionality about stopping whatever you
Mhm.
were doing, right? If it meant even just going somewhere to work every day, or if it
Right.
meant whatever the thing, right? There was intentionality around stopping. And I find as I talk to people that, journeys through 2020 looked one way or the other. Some people came up with a whole bunch of new stuff to fill the stoppage time with, and some people literally stopped. How did you manage 2020? If you, no matter when you're listening to this, I'm sure you know what 2020 was about.
Right.
How did you find yourself managing 2020 and newfound space, or maybe not?
Yeah, the interesting thing that came up quite a bit was healing the inner child. And, as you read my book, you probably noticed that my mom came up quite a bit in
By
there.
the way,
Hey, there it is.
yes.
Yes.
This is the bound digging, and we're going to talk about this too.
Yes, my book, it's called More Than Enough, The Healing Journey to Love Yourself, Listen to Your Gut, and Live Your Truth. And, my mom was a force of nature. I mean, she just passed away 2 months ago. And, she was extremely influential. I mean, I adored my mom and practically worshiped her as a child. She was everything. She was the co-owner of the medical practice with my dad. And, she was beautiful, magnetic. She was the most stylish woman you ever met. Like, she was awesome, but also very strong-willed. And, being the brilliant light that I am, she really, and I think this is something that I'll come to understand more as I become a parent, but she saw all of my gifts and wanted to make sure that, I developed perfectly into this perfect little doctor, perfect person. And I just remember feeling so much pressure on my shoulders all the time. Like, I never needed that external pressure because I'm very internally motivated and driven. And so as I hit 2020 and started hitting walls with my business where I was burnt out, I really don't enjoy telling people what to do with their health. I want to teach you and help you understand your body so that you can direct yourself. But I think a lot of people were awakened to the fact that I need to fix my health so I don't get COVID and die. It was great great that so many people came to that realization. But then as I had, quite a few more clients come on, I started feeling more of that pressure. Now I have to fix all these people and make them perfect and whole. And it's up to me when it's never up to us. Only God can heal. And our body, He's enabled our bodies to heal itself miraculously. He gave us all of that internal machinery for our bodies to do that as long as we honor it. And so I had to come to a place where I was like, you know what, I'm not taking any more patients. I'm going to focus on dealing with this hurting little child who feels like she has to be doing everything and fixing everything and living up to mommy's expectations and dealing with the anger and resentment and issues that I was seeing looking at my mom, who I sensed for a long time, even before her passing, that her health was declining. And so I was actually, in retrospect, realized that I was in that anger phase of grief already when she was still alive, just looking at her and feeling her dwindle away. And so 2020 was a year of reckoning that anger and resentment and redefining how I wanted to parent myself, how I wanted to be a parent to my future children, how I wanted to be a business owner in whatever way that manifested. It was a year of a lot of deep digging. And the saying is if there's anything worth doing, it's worth overdoing. I definitely overdid it and then eventually burnt myself out on all the personal development and spiritual work. I have to figure myself out. So 2020 was a hard year, but it was so critical because losing my mom in August, I'm definitely still grieving. I'll be grieving for the rest of my life, but it's not that same pain and weight and burden that I worked through. I was doing the work. I've been working through the grief for the past year and a half already. So 2020 was a pivotal year for me to learn how to grieving my mom, grieving the loss of my, grieving the child who didn't get to experience all the things in childhood because I was so overcommitted and overscheduled between gymnastics and piano and flute and all the millions of things that I did. So it was a year.
Dr. Riva, so you say something that I think is really, really worth talking and thinking about, both ourselves and our listeners, right? This notion of opening yourself up to grieving. Because I think that when we say the word, you naturally go to, in the case of your mom, God rest her soul, someone has moved on to the heavenlies. But you also mentioned grieving in the sense of self-reflection and transformation and advancement, right? Is what I take from what you said. And that is so real, because I think that, you as a medical expert would tell me how important it is to grieve. Again, in that traditional sense, we say that to people, but rarely do we hear the message of, you've taken a new phase in your life and getting over the past and moving forward by acknowledging what back there maybe hurts to let go, as you open up to new things. This notion of grieving, as a transitory type act. Can you share a little bit more about that with us? Because I really think that that is not talked about very much, to the point where even in the word of God, it talks about losing ourselves, right? To become and evolve and dying to our flesh.
Right.
We immediately want to get these morbid thoughts, but that's not what he's saying at all, right? I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, it's been such a beautiful process. And we usually don't think of grief and beauty in the same sentence, but the process of letting go. And it's funny, I have this little card here from a journal that says, well, it's kind of blurry. It says, let that go. Like, I keep it here to remind me, like, gotta let it go. There's something.
We really are twins, because I kid you not, on my bathroom mirror is a mantra that says, I let stuff go simply because it doesn't serve me. Period. I wrote that, and I look at it every day. Oh my God.
Amen. Yes, we are the same person. And so, like, the beauty is
by many years.
Yes.
You can say.
I was just telling Sean, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a podcast with Chantra. She's like me in 15 years, but the corporate version.
Oh no.
Yes, but like, here's the beauty in grief. Like, letting go of something opens up space for new. And new is scary. It's unknown. I've definitely learned how much fear has been a huge player in my life, and the decisions that I made, like fear of missing out on this and fear of not being good enough at that, or however it manifested, that always led me to taking on more and congesting my life and feeling more overwhelmed and more anxious. And so in grieving, like, the beautiful thing, like, after losing my mom, I was like, okay, well, this is a time of rest. Like, this is a time to allow myself space to be more available to my family. Like, this is the time that I get to not answer every text message right when it comes in, because grief is a great excuse for anything. It's like, but here's the thing, like, we're all grieving something at some point in time. It doesn't have to be death. I mentioned, grieving the little girl who missed out on so many things in her childhood. And 2021 has been a year of like letting my little girl take the reins a little bit more and just have fun and be free. So that's, that grieving process allowed my little girl to redeem herself and to feel seen in ways that she hadn't been seen before. And so, and for people who are listening, and whether you've lost somebody or lost some part of yourself, just know that, like, being able to sit with it and honor what you're feeling in that moment is the best gift that you can give yourself, because that unknown, that spaciousness, that void it's only going to allow you room to grow and room to receive more of what it is that your soul is longing for.
Ooh, so good. All right, so we're going to shift now
Okay.
into the formal practice of medicine, and maybe even integrating some of these thoughts, because disease state is a thing, illness is a thing, in particular now. And I would love to know, I'm sure others too, what your thinking is about the impacts of mental struggles with letting things go and opening up to new, how that finds itself in our bodies, how it hides, what it does, how it manifests. We hear about stress, and it's actually almost the most frustrating thing, right? You go to your annual checkup and the doctor says, well, you're stressed. Get rid of stress. Okay, well, good luck. Get rid of stress. So what does that mean with life? I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this, energy outside of ourselves, how it manifests inside our bodies, and your top 3 things that we need to think about in managing external, internal, and then I'm sure that'll lead us on a path of the physical side too.
Yes. So the first part of your question, the thing that have seen the most, just a repeating pattern with the people that I've served, who've mostly been women, I've seen so much anxiety and depression. Those are kind of standard, like that they're the most common mental illnesses that we see. But it kind of, I mean, and as I've been exploring in my devotion in the Bible lately, it's like you see so many verses that talk about like fear not, and the role that fear play, like fear shows up however many hundreds of times in the Bible, like fear is not of God. So like so much of illness, I feel, is kind of losing sight and losing track of that God within us.
Ooh.
And whenever we feel anxious, like we can't feel love and feel God and be anxious at the same time, or be depressed at the same time. And so, whether you're a Christian, whether you're Buddhist, whatever it is, like finding that thing that anchors you and connects you to that higher power and that sense of worthiness within you, like that will eliminate probably 90% of illness out there, because 90% of illness is attributed to stress. And so like,
is it really that high? It's really that
yes.
high?
Yes. Stress is toxic. Like it's so understated, because our community, our world is built on stress. We got to hustle, we got to grind, we got to just keep pushing through until we make it. And then it's like, all right, then we make it, and then we got to make it to the next level. And it's a never ending hamster wheel of achievement that we stay on. And it's not fun whenever you're eventually in the hospital having, what you think is a heart attack, but it's really just anxiety that's suffocating your body. So, the things that I've seen, as I mentioned, the anxiety and depression, but then I've seen so much autoimmunity too. So autoimmune diseases are where your body starts actually attacking itself. And so I'm always looking at physical disease as a spiritual expression. So we think about the body attacking itself. That's like, I mean, does it get any more like, thinking of like just the devil attacking us, like setting ourselves like brother against brother, tribe against tribe, like our bodies are sacred. And so whenever we're in the space where we're fear driven and stressed and anxious and all, like our body literally gets confused, and it's just doing its best to try to keep us alive. But then it starts confusing your thyroid cell with, this crazy bacteria. And so it starts attacking the thyroid and causing autoimmune thyroid disease, or your thyroid might just go into like total chaos, overproducing or underproducing. Like I've seen both spectrums. And so, and it's interesting that thyroid came up, because that it's such a sensitive organ, and it's one of the most sensitive organs to stress. And so it's also like one of the diseases that's most commonly undiagnosed because traditional medicine parameters aren't looking at the full picture. And so whenever I look at somebody's thyroid panels, I might be looking at like 7 or 8 different metrics, whereas a conventional doctor might look at 1 or 2. And so being able to see the bigger picture, not just how much of the thyroid hormone there is, but how much of the anti-thyroid or the reverse T3, we call it, like that hormone will actually block your thyroid, your actual free T3 from doing its job. It's kind of like the arch nemesis. And so it's like we need to look at the bigger picture, like what is preventing this from working? Do we have all of the pieces there, all of the machinery? Do we have too much of something in the diet, or do we have too little of something? Are you overdoing the exercise? That will assault your thyroid too. And so it's just, yeah, like thyroid is probably one of the biggest things that comes up for the female population, because we also tend to carry and hold a lot more stress in our body. What we don't release, the emotions, I mean, emotions are energy. We are energetic beings. So whatever we're not releasing that's toxic and negative, that will then start to wear away at the organs that are supporting our, our health.
Wow. So being person of color, woman of color, and 2020 creating a whole different conversation as well around how many of us have made our way to the boardroom by grace and quite frankly dealt with some silencing mechanisms that didn't allow us to show up completely authentically who we were, right? We got really good at holding things in, right? And now you've got this whole generation that is quote unquote coming out and figuring out what that means individually and even how to do it, what that voice looks like. And I would just imagine, kind of getting back to what you're saying, the whole reckoning with finding the space to communicate, articulate, feel, be, exist. Those are really important. And when we hold it all in, it's doing something, right? And so, man, have you seen an explosion of patients, or have you had an increased level of conversation, maybe even with women of color who bring a unique and different experience that's just found them in this place of, oh my God, like I didn't take care of that or this, and I'm sort of free right now, but by the way, what does free mean?
What does free even mean? Yes. And what I loved on your first podcast episode, like what you said about letting yourself be free, because that is one thing. Like my mind kind of goes back to the slavery days where some slaves, they stayed on the plantation. It's like, I don't know what's out there, like I'm free, but what am I supposed to do? Like I don't even know. That's so right. That idea of just being able to allow yourself to be. And I think as women of color, we've done so much to try to fit in and to play by the rules. And now with more Black women in power, and I mean, thank God we got women of color as our vice president, amen, hallelujah, like we have more women setting this example. I think it's kind of what I've seen a lot in my community is a lot of just this kind of vacillation. And it's something that like I've felt and experienced too, where it's like, yes, I'm ready to get out there. I'm going to do it. But like, oh gosh, no, this is scary. I don't know. It's like, am I going to be supported? Am I going to be accepted? Is it really safe to be me? Am I going to have the same security if I cut off all my hair and be natural. Like,
Yeah.
can I be a
And that's
leader
a
in the
thing.
workplace?
That was the
It's a
thing.
real
When
thing.
I
Yes.
got rid of all those long, relaxed locks, right? Like it was a thing for them and
Yes.
me.
Yes. I know, like, oh gosh, Chantra, is she gonna turn into this like Afrocentric diva now? Like, oh god, what's gonna happen? And so, and that, as I mentioned, having seen so much anxiety and depression and autoimmune, I think that correlates with that sense of like, okay, I'm gonna get out there, I'm gonna do it, but oh gosh, can I? It's like that internal conflict that creates so much friction internally that drives a lot of what we've experienced. I've seen so many, young women with blood pressure issues, and anxiety and blood pressure go hand in hand. Is like whenever we're anxious, that's increasing more stress hormones. And when we're stressed, our blood pressure will rise because our body is thinking, okay, we're going to have to run from a tiger. Let's get that blood pumping so that we, have your vital organs protected. So, all the things that we see in the Black community or people of color that are so much greater than our, Caucasian counterparts, diabetes, metabolic issues, what do we do whenever we're feeling stressed and anxious? We seek comfort foods. We tend to indulge in habits that don't necessarily sustain our health. And
Doesn't
so
help that the food is good.
we know how to cook, all
Yes,
right?
we
But
do.
here's the thing, and what I love, and like one of the gifts that I bring is, being able to learn how to make healthy food taste amazing, as that's something that a lot of us, I'm very grateful that I was exposed to it and grew up in a home where, I learned how to cook at a very young age, but most people, it's, food is part of our culture. And if that's not part of your family culture, you won't necessarily learn how to cook healthier things. So, the diabetes and heart disease, anxiety, depression, obesity, all of these things, I've seen so much more within our community. And it's heartbreaking because at the end of the day, like, these are illnesses that tend to get kind of brushed off by the conventional medical community, or given a prescription, and that's kind of like your life sentence. You're going to take this forever. You'll probably need additional medications down the road, and we're disempowered. So here we are, we're being empowered socially, given more freedoms to express ourselves and to assume more roles of power. But then at the same time, we're feeling disempowered within our bodies and limited and constricted and confined. So, my role really is to help bring those two together. And, part of that journey has been through my, bodybuilding journy and being able to do that in a healthy way.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell you that. She's a badass bodybuilder too. Yeah. If you haven't heard enough.
Yes. And so it's like in this community, we have a much different range of dysfunction. It's usually not the obesity, but kind of the other end of the spectrum where we're burning out and we're, assaulting our thyroid from overuse and stress and anxiety. There's a lot more disordered eating, which is something that I struggled with a lot in my past. And so being able to be in a space where I can lead by example and fail many times. I've burnt out, I've messed up my thyroid and adrenals and come back from that. So, it's really been my mission just to be able to not just be prescriptive and say, this is what you have to do, or this is your diagnosis, this is who you are now. It's to say, like, listen, your body is expressing this, but there is a way forward. We can get through this. I've been through it, and we will get through it together moving forward.
Do you feel like the best healthcare is a combination where, I mean, you are unique in that you bring the perspective of traditional medicine as well as the advancements of functional medicine. And I already know that you're thinking about holistic opportunities as well, right? You're not quick to write a script. And so you really are talking to the whole person, which is amazing and so unique right now. Do you think that many of us, most of us, should be thinking about health in that way? Because a lot of us, go to the annual visit and, the rush doctor is trying to hear what streams they think. And the rush doctor says, take this or let's test that. But you sound like you do so much more. Maybe just share with us, what's your guidance on how we can improve our health regimen, our checkup, our listening to our body? What's your guidance on that?
Yes. So it's absolutely critical for everyone to take a holistic approach. Like there's no one person who can do it all for you, not even me. I have probably the most comprehensive scope compared to a lot of doctors out there, but it takes a tribe. So whenever it comes to the first assessment, I spend 2 hours with my patient, 2 hours. And that's after spending probably 3 to 4 hours reviewing all of their intake forms, as it's about 10. Well, by the time they've completed all the responses, it's usually somewhere between 15 to 20 pages of material that I'm reviewing, looking at everything from, their like a 3-day eating diary. So I want to know, and usually it's not completely accurate. So there's a little bit more digging. Something happens when we actually have to tell somebody what we're eating. I just had half a cup of granola, never mind, the half a cup of peanut butter that, you threw on top of your yogurt bowl. So it's like looking at, having an honest conversation about what you're eating, understanding what their morning routine, because that sets you up for the rest of your day and the rest of your week and your life. Like it starts with the mornings, but the mornings actually start with the evening before. Like, what's your nighttime ritual? Are you actually getting to sleep? So, functional medicine, which for those of you who are unfamiliar, is really just a root cause approach to healing the whole person. And a whole person is mind, body, and spirit. And so my evaluation, I'm digging into understanding your relationships. There's a section that, asks you questions like, how would you rate your intimacy with your partner? Like, are you satisfied, not satisfied? Because that's going to affect many things. Like that will, you might be depressed because you're not getting any at home and you don't feel like, who knows? So we have, right, it does. And so it's real, I really am seeking to understand the whole you, what drives and motivates you, because no matter, I can give you the best lifestyle prescription plan in the whole world that I know is going to work, but unless you are ready to take action and unless you have the space in your life to do that, and that's another thing, I tell people up front, I'm not going to take you on unless you are ready to make space for this process. And so it's not just me that I'm working with my patients. I'm usually referring them to chiropractors. Health also has to do with our alignment of our nervous system and our spine. Our nervous system controls all of the various functions in our organs and all this stuff. So it's not just about cracking your neck back into place. It's about allowing the nerves to be able to reach and communicate with the distant parts of your body. So, I'm working from a holistic point of view. I might refer people to physical therapists as well. I might refer them to see a psychotherapist if they're ruminating on particular issues. That's a quite, common referral that I'll make for people. So it's not just about looking at symptoms and saying, oh, well, we need to fix these symptoms. It's understanding what's driving it, what's underneath the surface, what's the root cause, and why is it important for you to take action now? Because then that's where we start getting into the nitty gritty and understanding that person's fears, their biggest dreams, and what's really going to help them heal.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to tell you what, anyone who takes you up on the opportunity, I know is bound to be blessed. I'm signing myself up. So that'll be a conversation that we have after this, because I've been on a journey for the last probably year and a half, 2 years. And I am so grateful that I have started this journey. To your point, it's different than just a traditional approach. But I am super excited to get to know you in that way as well.
Love it.
I want to make sure that everyone knows that the book that Dr. Riva has written is called More Than Enough. The healing journey to love yourself, listen to your gut, and live your truth. It's a #1 bestseller, and I think you will do yourself wonders to read it. We could only even scratch the surface of who she is in this conversation, but if you read this book, you're going to learn so much more, and you're going to fall in love with her as a spirit, just as I have. Just absolutely amazing. My little for forever and ever now. And the other thing that I want to say, or ask rather, is, are you open? As I sign myself up, we don't live in the same city. Are you open to patients who would be calling upon you that may live in other parts of the US and, quite frankly, the world? Are you open for business virtually?
Absolutely. And so the way I'm able to work things is technically, as a medical doctor, we're licensed in particular states. So I'm licensed in Texas and in California, but what I offer people outside of, the traditional medical convention, like so much of what I'm doing really is mentorship. And so, what I would be offering you really is like a health mentorship experience where, I'm sure you've had opportunities where you've mentored other leaders and helped them develop their innate abilities. Like that's the gift that I offer other people. So it's, not just there's a lot that we could do and looking at labs and like getting down in the nitty gritty, but honestly, like that stuff, it doesn't light me up. Like what lights me up is really like whenever we get to the core of your health journey and understand, what are those key lifestyle factors? What are the emotional, mental, spiritual underlying factors that are driving whatever imbalances your body is expressing? And that doesn't come from me being prescriptive. That just comes from me being able to sit and listen and understand you as a human being. And then it's like, oh, well, we might just need to get, a little bit more adaptogenic mushrooms from Whole Foods, $19.99, and that can help balance your stress levels, which then in turn can help rebalance your blood pressure. So like everything that I offer people really is just like, how do we take all of these things available to you from your environment and distill down what it is that you need exactly? And, 9 times out of 10, I'm trying to think the last time I actually wrote a prescription. I can't even remember, or called one in. Like I don't even own a prescription pad. And the very few times I have to call something in, I'm like trying to remember now, how exactly do I call in a prescription again? Like, the pharmacist call me back. Like, what exactly are you? So all that to say, like for people who are abroad, for people around the world or stateside in the US, like I'm available to serve you and mentoring you and being able to connect back, because really it's just a process of connecting back to you, because your body will guide you. Your body is just ready and waiting for you to like make that connection and develop that relationship to the point where you're just following, like my body and my journey with healing my own gut. And that comes up in the book as well. Like it was 100% intuitive, not 100. I mean, of course, there was some medical stuff involved in there, but I really just enjoy being able to help people connect back to their gut, both literally and figuratively, to get to the other side and experience true well-being.
Wow. Well, you know what? I could literally talk to you forever, and we'll be talking to you more forever. I hope that this has been the great experience that I knew it would be for all those that are watching and listening. You are a light. You are a brilliant light, just as your mom intended you to be. And even before her, God intended you to be. Thank you for being so gracious with your time and offering such great information. It's really quite something when you finally get to a place of admitting that you've been truly seeking perfection, and it's been your Achilles heel all along, right? And perfection according to somebody else's image or somebody else's plan. And when you let go and you start to really let your body breathe you, they say that in yoga, but I believe that that's a thing in life. When we let go and let our body breathe us, is what I receive from you, it will heal itself as well. We're making space for it to do what God intended. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you. This has blessed me just as much as I'm sure it's blessed you and your listeners. So I'm truly, truly grateful for you, Chandra. And I can't wait to get back to Naples and hang out again.
Yeah, I can't wait to. Oh my God. All right. So we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you. And love you so much.
Love you too.